On February 6, 2008, 48-year-old Judith Petty left her grandmother's house to walk to a library 3 blocks away to return some books. After that, we don't know what happened. The family searched for her throughout the night into the following morning. The next day, her father drove 13 miles to their family farm to find the entire property engulfed in flames. When the fire was out, that's when they found Judith's remains in the cellar. The medical examiner said she was dead before the fire started. The local sheriff at the time said he knew it was a homicide and investigated it as such. Now, 14 years later, law enforcement says that Judith must have taken her own life or died of natural causes, and there's nothing to investigate. Welcome everybody to Safe Haven. I am one of your hosts, Justin. I'm here with Melissa. Today's episode we're going to discuss the timeline of events on February 6th and 7th, 2008. We're going to lay it out the best that we can with all the information that we have, and we're going to kind of go through it all and talk about it because we did go there, so we have a better understanding of where everything is, what it looks like, that kind of stuff. Melissa, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Justin, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not doing too shabby, I suppose.
That's good. I'm excited to go over the timeline because that's one of the biggest questions that we are receiving is people wanting to know the timeline. So I'm happy that we're able to provide this now for the listeners.
Absolutely.
So on February 6, 2008, between 3:30 and 5:30, we have a 2-hour window because we're not quite sure what time she actually left her grandmother's house. It's hard to tell exactly what time she walked out the door. We're hearing that she left around sunset, and then we hear that she left a little bit earlier than that. So we have the window of 3:30 to 5:30 to give us a little room, and we hope to tighten that up. So Judy had left the house, and she had gone to the library to return some books, according to her sister and her nephew. So they were both home. Judy wasn't feeling so great that day. She, had gone to the store earlier. She had walked to the store and got some 7-Up and things like that for her stomach. She came home. She took a nice bath, and then she realized that she needed to go and wanted to get out and walk. So she always walked. It always made her feel better. So about 3:30, between 3:30 and 5:30, she said that she was going to go to the library to return some books and some movies. And her sister Wanda had actually asked her to, go ahead and take the car because they knew she wasn't feeling well that day. And they said, why don't you take the car and go? And Judy said, no, I just want to walk. She always liked to walk. It made her feel better just to get out of the house because she took care of her grandmother. And that was a hard job. Her grandmother had some dementia. And so, she liked to get out and have some time to herself. So according to the family, between 3:30 and 5:30 was when she decided to, leave the house and go ahead and walk that half mile to the library. That's a pretty short trip. There wasn't anything that stood out to Jen and I when we walked it. It was just kind of like any other day. School was getting out, so it was a busy road. And there wasn't any things that, from Jen's perspective, that stood out as, a place to abduct anybody. It was a pretty busy area. And we do know that she returned the books. So the books were returned. We're just not sure if she went inside or if they had the book drop outside. We did talk to the people at the library. They can't remember in 2008 if they had the book drop outside, but they're guessing that she would have come inside to return the books.
Let's point out, too, that this trip is maybe a 15-minute walk. Mm-hmm. It's like a half a mile. It's not, and that's moving at a slow pace. It's not going to take that long. And that's why, like Melissa said, we kind of wanted to leave that window open from when she left because we heard so many different times. But no matter which time it was in that window, this was a busy time period of town. There's going to be cars going back and forth. There's going to be kids getting out of school. There's a high-rise retirement home right there. There's the library. There's no real sidewalks to walk on. You kind of got to walk on the side of the road. Yes. So somebody would have seen her making that trip. And we do have to point out too, and this is by no way shaming, but this is pertinent information. Judy, her body type, she was, I believe, about 5'6", 240 pounds, and she was also diabetic. So when we say she liked to walk, get fresh air, get some exercise. She didn't like to walk 15 miles uphill on rough terrain and stuff like that. Her body type probably wouldn't have taken that very well. That, and judging by the autopsy report, which will be a future episode, she had some bone spurs in her hips. So that's going to be very, very painful. So I could see her walking short walks or maybe going for walk for an hour or two. But, we do have to point out that information as well.
That's a good point, Justin. And, she loved to walk. She was, I think, newly diagnosed as a diabetic. And I think that really upset her. And her doctor told her, you need to get some more exercise. You need to take care of yourself. And they lived in a location that was right there near everything. So she didn't have to drive. So I think people probably saw her out walking quite a bit. And it was just kind of an everyday occurrence, back in 2008 of just, when we walked to the library, we had to walk on the road on many parts, just regular street roads, just because there was no sidewalks. But you have to cross a busy intersection to get to the library. But again, it's very busy at that time of day with the schools getting out, that I think if anything happened out of the ordinary, that would have been picked up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so about 6:30 p.m. is when she hasn't returned home yet. Like I said, this wasn't supposed to be a very long trip. That's when the family starts getting worried and starts calling around, asking if anybody had seen her, seeing if she's at somebody else's house or anything like that. At 7:30 is when we have our first supposed sighting on St. Mary's Pike. Is that correct, Melissa?
Yes, around 7:30. Mm-hmm.
And that was confirmed, right?
That is from the police report.
About an hour later at 8:30, she is seen on Laurel Creek. Of a distance is that within that hour?
From what I've MapQuest and from what we've been able to kind of figure out, from the library to Laurel Creek Road was about 2 hours and a 43-minute walk. So that would put her there, around the 7:30 mark. And then she was seen on Laurel Creek Road, which turns into Rising Sun Ridge Road for those people who live in Parkersburg. And that's about a 1 hour and 20-minute walk from the old St. Mary's Pike and the Laurel Creek intersection. Mm-hmm.
So time frame actually makes a little bit of sense there, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
It kind of backs up to around the maybe more 4:35 timeline.
Okay. And then about 9 p.m. is when Mr. Petty starts driving roads out to the farm property. And he's kind of driving around all the roads, from what I understand, trying to see if he could find her. He's not sure where she is. Nobody's really seen her at this point that he knows of. And there's really no signs of Judy. When he gets to the property, there's no footprints there. So he goes back home. I believe right about 10 p.m. is when the family files that missing person report.
Yeah, so I think, when we mapped it out, from the library to the Laurel Creek intersection is about 6 miles. And then from the Laurel Creek Road to Almond Hill Road is about an hour and 20 minutes, or, 4 miles. So she's already walked about 10 miles, around the 9 o'clock hour, 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then the last sighting that we have was that somebody picked her up at the intersection of Almond Hill Road and Jericho Road.
Yes.
So we have an individual, his name is Chris Cutright, and I spoke to him earlier this week, and he spoke to the police back in 2008, and he said that he saw Judy walking at the intersection of Almond and Jericho Road. And so it was late at night, he said, and so he just stopped and asked if she wanted a ride, and she said, yes. So she got into his truck, and according to Chris, he drove her the 2 miles to her family farm. He was going that way because he lived out that way. So he said, hey, I'm going this way. And Judy said, that's fine. I live, on Deer Walk Highway. So they drove the 2 miles to the farm. And according to Chris, he dropped her off at the gate down, at the hill, and he drove away. And that was the last time that anyone that we know of to this point had seen Judy alive.
And in the next episode, when we start talking about the investigation, we are going to discuss some discrepancies in stories that we have found. So just keep that in mind, because I know a lot of people are going to hear this, and in the Facebook group, there's going to be, oh, well, I heard this or I heard that. And it's like, trust me, we've heard all of it too. And we will be discussing the discrepancies in the stories in the next episode when we actually talk about some of the information that we've gathered since our trip there, some of the people we've talked to.
Yeah, and keep reaching out. As Justin said, the more information we get, you can private message us, you can call the tip line, we have the email, you can remain anonymous. And we have talked to many people who want to remain anonymous, and we respect that. And we appreciate people coming forward. And if you are one of the people that saw Judy walking, give us a call, email us, private message us, let us know, so that we can, tighten up the timeline a little bit. But according to Chris himself, he doesn't remember the exact time he picked her up. What he does say is that he was at the Dallison bar, which is out there on Dallison Road. And he was leaving because there was a tough man contest in Parkersburg that night. And from what I can find online, most of those events started between 7 and 7:30. So Chris said the bar closed early because the bartender, James Bonnet, and I would love to talk to James if he's listening, to reach out, because he said he closed early. And then that's why Chris was leaving, so that he could go home and James could go to the tough man contest. So by the time Chris left there, it could have been around 8:30, 9 o'clock when he saw Judy walking, because he doesn't remember the exact time that he picked her up.
Later on, after the family does file that missing person report, it's between 10:30 p.m. on the 6th and about 2:30 a.m. on the 7th. Mr. Petty is driving the roads pretty much around the farm, anywhere that he can, trying to look for Judy. And there's also other family members driving around town as well, looking for her just randomly. I mean, I'd probably be doing the same thing. No specific plan, just everybody spawn out. You go this way, you go that way. I believe it was Kelly. She told me she was the one who suggested Mr. Petty go check around the farm and check around those roads and stuff like that. So we have had a lot of people just like, why did, Mr. Petty just automatically go to the farm? It was because Kelly suggested it to him. Honestly, she had a bad dream, I believe is what she had said.
Yes.
She told Mr. Petty, she goes, Dad, just go check around the farm, all of those roads. And like with those roads leading out to the farm and around the farm area, as a lot of you have seen in the Facebook group, I posted some aerial photos. I did post them in the comments section, though, unfortunately. We can repost those here in the near future by the time this episode comes up, so you can see what we're talking about. These roads are windy, they're hilly, they're extremely narrow. So if she was on some of those roads, it would be hard not to see her, because right. I don't even think there's really a shoulder on those roads. And they are they are terrifying to drive during the day or even walk. I wouldn't walk them during the day, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of blind corners, blind hills. That is something that the listeners should know as well. So,
right. And I do want to point out, and I think that's why we have these 2 potential sightings of her, people calling in, because it was abnormal to see somebody out there walking those roads at night. That's why I think we want to, get a hold of these people who saw her and talk to them, because, according to some reports and from what the families heard, they had offered to give Judy a ride, and she said, no, thank you, on both times.
Yes.
And then she ends up saying yes to Chris at 9, or when he came by, she said, okay. So, we just want to understand maybe why she said no, or how her demeanor was. because she turned down 2 other opportunities to get a ride. And, the other thing too, the family were going around, like you mentioned, Justin, through the middle of the night. At midnight, they were going to the cemetery. They were going to all the places that they thought that she might have been. And I think what's heartbreaking is that they missed her walking by a very short time frame, if you look at it that way.
You would have had to have been on the right road at the right time.
Yep. And they were out looking at 9, and she might have been picked up around that time, but she was already out there on Jericho Road at that time before they headed out that way. On February 7th now at 6 a.m., Judy is on the local news as a missing person. The family are still out looking for her. Between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m., Mr. Petty is going everywhere. He is going out to the farm. And at that time, he decides to go up the driveway. So he decided at this point there was daylight. He was able to see. And I think it's important. There's a lot of people who wondered about the gate and being locked. It was locked, according to Mr. Petty. So during the day, he decided he could see better, and maybe she had gone up to the house. So he went ahead and went out to the farm. He unlocked the gate. He could only drive up half of the driveway because how muddy he was going to get stuck. So he put his truck in park, got out, and started going up this long driveway. And by the time he got up, he could see that his property was on fire. So he ran back down the driveway to the neighbors to use their phone. As we discovered, there's no cell reception at the bottom of the hill. Zero. No. I got all these messages days later because my phone didn't pick up anything. So Mr. Petty had to run back up the hill to get reception and to call 911. So at that point, it's around 9:30 that the fire department 911 was called about the fire.
About 9:30 a.m. is when the first officials arrive on the scene, and it was the Deer Walk Volunteer Fire Department. And they had a tough time trying to fight the fire because of the driveway. And the driveway is a third of a mile, about a 45 degree angle uphill. It's uneven. It's not paved. That made it difficult for the trucks to get near the outbuilding and the house, which does make a lot of sense. I will be honest, when it comes to vehicles anyway.
Right.
The next person we have is Officer Doug McLean. We have Detective Brunner from the Parkersburg Police Department. And then we have Sergeant Westfall from Wood County Sheriff's Department and Terry Hefner, who was the chief of Waverly Fire Department. They all start arriving at the scene as well. The whole time, the family is asking for them to put out the fire. Mr. Petty is sitting there saying, hey, listen, my daughter is still missing, and now my property is on fire. Mm-hmm. Something's not right here. Put out the fire. And he keeps getting told that, we can't get any trucks up there. Mm-hmm. We're just going to have to let it burn. It's because they couldn't get up that driveway. So everybody, family, law enforcement officials, fire department, everybody's just standing there kind of watching the property burn at that point because they had said there's not much we can do. We can't get any trucks up here.
And I think, at that point too, as we talk about the investigation, the flames, everything was already burnt down. I mean, it was already demolished by the time they got there. So there were flames, it was smoldering. Everything was pretty much already destroyed. And one of the things that we're going to talk to an arsonist expert about is, how long would a fire have to burn, or how hot would it have to burn to get to the point that we found it that day, or the family found it that day, because everything was already demolished. There was smoldering and maybe 2 feet high flames. So the cellar, the house, everything was already burnt down to the ground. And so I think that's an important thing that we're going to be able to talk to the arsonist expert about.
The arson expert will be very beneficial because we do have the fire paperwork, we have the report, we have all that. And one thing that we were struggling to find is the origin of the fire, in which directions it went, because wind gusts were right around 30 miles an hour that night, I believe. It was dry, so it's possible that this could have spread from gusts of wind, but we also have to take into consideration we aren't experts. That's why we're going to talk to one, because we still have to have an origin. We still have to know where it started, whether it was the outbuilding first or the house first, We'll also talk to him about, I mean, if he can look at some of the debris, because like I said, we were there, we took video. I mean, and it's been 14, 15 years now, so, a lot of the stuff doesn't look the same, but we do have the benefit of pictures the day all of this happened, so that is extremely beneficial.
Yeah, and kudos to the family for taking all these photos. I still can't believe how many photos that they took in anticipation. Like, they just knew something was wrong.
Yeah,
and they were
absolutely.
snapping photos, and they have photos of Judy's remains. I mean, they were so active from the get-go because they just felt like something was wrong. So we definitely have a lot of photos that we can show the arsonist expert and try to get more insight into the fire. One of the things that we're going to talk about in a future episode, as we're looking at the investigation, is the temperatures and the wind speed, and how high and low were the temperatures, because that plays a factor into the investigation and exactly what the likelihood is of fire spreading based on wind and things like that.
Like I said, we have the advantage of a lot of good research and a lot of information from interviews that we've gotten since we went there and even afterwards. So we will include all that. One thing the locals did do for the Petty family is they brought out cadaver dogs. Towards the end of the fire, the cadaver dogs kept running back and forth from the house to the cellar, which was under the outbuilding. And Mr. Petty noticed it, and he's saying, hey, like, why are these cadaver dogs running back and forth? What's going on? The details of that, it's hard telling. I will say that it's maybe 20, 25 yards between the outbuilding and the house. So that could mean a whole number of things as well. When Mr. Petty walks up to what used to be the outbuilding, is now just a hot cellar, that's where he finds Judy's body and alerts officials.
And I think that is where the frustration came, is because at that point when they found her remains, they didn't know if it was animal or human or what. And they asked the family to leave, but they never roped anything off as far as the family can tell. And it was kind of just a shock to everybody because they weren't looking. Mr. Petty was saying, well, my daughter's still missing and the property is on fire. So Judy was still missing at this point, and some families were still out looking for her while the family was trying to, worry about the property.
That was a lot going on, in a 48-hour period. A lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think this is why we really want listeners to then who live in the area, but also who might know some of these individuals that we mentioned, to call us, private message us, because we want to really narrow this timeline down as much as we can get. But we do know she was picked up and she was seen being dropped off at the farm. So from that point, what happened? And that'll be our next future episode, is actually looking at the investigation component of it, since we know that she at least made it to the farm.
We do know that she made it there, whether she walked up there on her own accord, or she was taken up there by an ATV or a vehicle. I mean, there weren't really any tracks from what Mr. Petty said. There was one boot print that he did get, which we will talk about in the next episode. So, I mean, there's still a lot of information coming, but we're trying to basically break it up so it's easier for the listener to be along with it. And because it's so much information, we can't just pummel everybody with it. So there is a lot more information that we got that is coming in the next episode, just so the listeners are aware of that.
We do have maps and routes that we will put up on our Facebook page as a file so that you can actually see what we've put together so far. If you need a visual, I know I'm a visual person. I don't know about you, Justin, but I am. Especially in this area that I'm not familiar with, to see how did she walk out there, and when she got out there, what was her plan?
That's one of the benefits of joining the Facebook group, because there is a page which is set up by the family. They've been sharing our information, but you have to join the group because it's not a public group. So if you want to get in on this information and be able to look at it, join the group, check it out. Jen has been writing, I think she has 3 articles based on the case now. she has been putting a lot of pictures and from Google Maps, and it shows the terrain. She's been putting a lot of pictures in those articles, and that's where they're posted at, is in the group. So just search Safe Haven, the murder of Judith Petty, and join the group and get involved, because, you know, we need all the minds working on this best we can.
Absolutely. And that's where you can see, as Justin said, our videos and any photos that we end up putting up, because the more the eyes, more eyes, the better. And also people know people. And I think that's one of the things is, I'm reaching out for future episodes, a forensic anthropologist, somebody who can take a look at the remains and tell us some things that we're going to be talking about in future episodes. So, people have different expertise, if you will, in different areas, or they might know somebody, and that's how you can be a part of this investigation.
Before we wrap up, Melissa, do you want to give the information for the anonymous tip line and email?
So the tip line you can call is 224-225-5208. Again, you can remain anonymous, or you can send an email to tips@justice and then the number 4 Judy.com. And we do have a $5,000 reward.
Any information that leads to an arrest, you get $5,000. And to be honest with you, I don't know too many people that couldn't use $5,000. So
yeah, Christmas is coming.
Christmas is coming. Yep. And so there's the information in the timeline. And like I said, I'm sure we'll get more questions in the Facebook group after we do post this episode, which is totally fine. We encourage that, but just be aware as we progress and go through the timeline, the evidence, the fire, the interviews that we've done, a lot of those questions will be answered, but we still encourage questions for sure.
Yes, and that I love the questions we've been already getting. Have you seen those? Have been great.
A lot of great questions. Yeah. Everybody is really active in there, and they're asking great questions, and everybody is interacting with each other as well, because there might be some information that we have already posted in there that somebody is asking a question that's already been answered, and somebody else will come in, another person in the group, and be like, here's that information. So everybody is on the same page, and it's pretty awesome.
And it just makes me so happy to have this group. And we're almost at 700 members. Did you see
that?
A lot
of people getting involved, which, like I said, we always encourage. And the more people looking at this case, the better. I actually told Kelly yesterday, she had messaged me about some stuff, and we're getting listened to in about 35 or 40 states in the U.S. right now, along with 5 other countries. So Judy's case is getting heard. It's getting out there finally. And yeah, we always encourage people to share the case. If you're a true crime person who wants to be involved in an investigation, and somebody like that, share the podcast. Hey, this is a real-time crowdsourced thing. And like I said, the information that leads to an arrest, it could be a listener.
Yes.
It could be somebody from Parkersburg. It could be somebody from somewhere else.
Somebody knows. And I think that's why this is so great. I think we're one away from 700. That's because all of you have been sharing and getting your community involved. And it could very well be somebody in this group who holds that one piece of information that they don't know is going to make that difference.
Absolutely.
So rather, if you think it's important or not, send it our way. And, we appreciate any feedback.
Yep.
So
any information you give us, if you just say, hey, this is going to be anonymous, that's fine. We are very huge on confidentiality. Most of the tips we've gotten, people just don't want to be known, and that's totally fine. We take all that information. We don't brush anything off. If something sounds, more plausible than something else, we're taking all the information that we're getting and we're putting it into what we already have. And that's how we're doing it. We're basing everything on fact and the information that's still coming in to help us build this timeline and hopefully generate more information and tips.
Right. And I think that's where I posted too, is that the last episode was recorded back in September. So we have a lot more information now, and we will continue to get more information that could change some of the things that we are saying today. But that's what this is all about. It's an ongoing investigation. So as we continue to learn stuff and talk to more people, things could change, and that would be a good thing that we
Yes.
get more information.
Yeah, the more information we get, the more the case evolves. And like I
Mhm.
said, we're not trying to throw around speculation or rumors and stuff like that. We do take that information into account, but the information we're providing you is factual based on the information that we have received. So,
Yep. All right. Well, I look forward to next week.
yeah, me too. There's a lot to talk about.
Yes.
All right, Melissa.
Stay tuned.
Yep, stay tuned, definitely. And like I said, share the podcast, join the group.
Yep.
But
See you then.
see you then.